Today is Monday, April 12, 2021. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Black man shot and killed by cops in a Minneapolis suburb. The officer caught on video saying she thought she pulled her taser. Instead, she killed this brother. Protests have erupted there in that city. We'll talk about that, and also the Derek Chauvin murder trial, where his attorneys tried to actually get the jury sequestered. The judge turned that down, and in that trial, the brother of George Floyd testified today as the prosecution called their final witnesses. Folks, in Virginia, an officer fired after video went viral over the weekend of a U.S. Army lieutenant being pulled over for no reason whatsoever, pepper sprayed, threatened by the cops. And in Maryland, they become the first state to repeal the Law Enforcement Officers' Bill of Rights, overriding the veto of Governor Larry Hogan. And the White House is putting the creation of a National Police Oversight Commission on hold. We have a police panel. You don't want to miss their analysis. Kori Gautier, a Louisiana University student, is still missing after her car was found abandoned on a freeway with her purse and cell phone in the car. And the Baton Rouge cops didn't bother to call her parents to tell them the car was found before it was towed to an impound lot. And Civil Rights Attorney Kristen Clarke has a confirmation hearing scheduled this week. We'll talk about why her appointment to the post to the DOJ is very important in light of so many reports of police misconduct. Plus, we pay tribute to rapper DMX. It is time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Let's go. A car air freshener. That's why 22-year-old Daunte Wright was pulled over by cops in the Minneapolis suburb. He was asked to step out of the car, handcuffed. He tried to get back into the car when an officer fired a shot, killing him. It was captured on body cam footage where she says she had a taser. We're warning you right now, folks. If it's a trigger warning, we'll give you an advance notice. We're going to show this in about 10 seconds. This body cam footage was released today by the police department in that city. And so let's show it right now. You heard her say, "I just shot him." She yelled taser. Okay, we got some problems with that because a taser doesn't weigh the same as a gun. Here's a police chief of Brooklyn City commenting on this, what he termed an accidental shooting.
As you can hear, the officer, while struggling with Mr. Wright, shouts, "Taser, taser," several times. That is part of the officer's training prior to deploying a taser, which is a less lethal device. That is done to make her partners aware, as well as the subject, that a taser deployment will be imminent. During this encounter, however, the officer drew their handgun instead of their taser. For informational purposes, we train with our handguns on our dominant side and our taser on our weak side. So if you're right-handed, you carry your firearm on your right side and you carry your taser on the left. This is done purposefully and is trained. As I watch the video and listen to the officer's commands, it is my belief that the officer had the intention to deploy their taser, but instead shot Mr. Wright with a single bullet. This appears to me, from what I've viewed and the officer's reaction and distress immediately after, that this was an accidental discharge that resulted in the tragic death of Mr. Wright.
Here's the mayor of Brooklyn Center.
Let me be very clear. My position is that we cannot afford to make mistakes that lead to the loss of life of other people in our profession. And so I do fully support releasing the officer of her duties.
Now, the incident happened about 10 miles from where George Floyd was murdered by Derek Chauvin, again, who's on trial for the death of George Floyd. Last night, thousands took to the streets and were met with police in riot gear and tear gas. Today, there were numerous questions at the news conference where the mayor was questioned about the response to the folks who were out there protesting. Folks, they're protesting right now in Brooklyn Center, and they expect there to be more protests tonight. Let's go to our law enforcement panel. Reddit Hudson is founder of the National Coalition of Law Enforcement Officers for Justice Reform and Accountability, retired LAPD Sergeant Cheryl Dorsey, and both of them join us right now. I want to start with you, Cheryl. So take us through. First of all, guys in the control room, I want you to cue the video up. And Cheryl, this is what I don't understand. She pulls the gun out. She thinks it's a taser. It's about 5 seconds go by before she fires. How does she not know that she grabbed the gun and the taser? Don't they weigh differently? Don't they feel differently?
Absolutely. And so what we're hearing now is a police chief trying to minimize and mitigate behavior that should have never occurred. They understand that city liability will soon follow. And I do believe that this police chief serves at the pleasure of the mayor, who said he has a problem with this. So he has an opportunity, an affirmative responsibility, the mayor, to make sure that the police chief gets this right. They are now trying to craft a scenario that will sit well with the public, and it's bothersome. First of all, you don't even tase someone because they're about to drive away. You have the guy's car, you've run his plate, hopefully, tactfully, you should have. You've had his license plate, hopefully. You know who he is and where he's likely to go. Why would you even tase him because he's running, because he had air fresheners hanging from his rearview mirror and possibly a warrant? Makes no sense.
See, this is the thing for me, Reddit, that's so problematic here. And that is, you pull them over for air fresheners. Why? Now, after you pull them over, they discovered there's a warrant. What was the total? $346. $346. That's what the total amount was. I was on social media earlier where someone actually pulled up that particular information that explained what took place, and apparently it was 2 minor misdemeanors. One, a marijuana case totaling $346. Pled guilty, filed for the deferred payment, and he missed a remote hearing. Okay. Now, Reddit, the people out there, I've already seen the right-wing white conservatives, never flee, why run? How about you don't pull your gun out and you shoot somebody or tase somebody over a misdemeanor traffic ticket?
Absolutely, Roland. Meanwhile, you got white armed insurrectionists storming the Capitol, murdering police officers, leaving unscathed. We've seen it time and again. It's almost, you hate to repeat this story as repetitive as it is, but the reality is we have to do something different, man. I think we're way past the point of debating whether or not black people are policed differently. It's very obvious. It's been obvious for generations. At this point, what we have to be is strategic, intentional, and aggressive. Points of attack, union contracts. Get rid of qualified immunity. I think the state of Maryland just did that, but that needs to happen all over the country. It's one of the things that allow officers to act with such impunity and be so reckless. If you see the tape again, when you asked Sergeant Dorsey about it, one of the other things that jumps out, and I'm sure the sergeant probably observed this too, is how she's moving the weapon around prior to discharge, because there's an officer initially partially obscuring her target, and she waits until he gets out of the way. She's kind of moving the weapon around him so as not to hit him with whatever's in her hand. Obviously, she has to see it in order to aim it. So I've got questions about this account that she thought she had her taser, which is holstered on the opposite side from your strong hand. It's just another reckless murder of a black body by police officers in this country. And until we see real accountability, that's the only training that matters, man. That's the only training we need right now. People need to start going to prison. Cities need to pay the money to the families that have been injured, but people need to start going to prison. Derek Chauvin, perhaps this officer after the investigation. I can hold anything in my hand, man, and say anything I want to. It doesn't necessarily indicate what my intention is. If I point a gun at you and say, lollipop, 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 and pull the trigger, I've still shot you to death. And that statement that I made is not exculpatory at all.
Dr. Lacey Davis, founder of Black Cops Against Police Brutality, he also joins us. What is strange to me, you've got a cop on the opposite side of the car. You've got a cop who's dealing with Daunte. You got another police officer. You got a minimum of three. We didn't see anywhere. You got a minimum of three police officers. He hops back in the car. Again, what I don't understand is, how is your first instinct to grab a weapon, taser or gun? A gun wasn't found in the car. There was no indication that there was a weapon in the vehicle. She's on the side of the vehicle. The other officer's on the side with her. The other officer's on the other side. He's not about to run over somebody. So I'm just trying to understand, from a police standpoint, what causes you to pull out a taser or a gun in that circumstance?
Well, Roland, you guys are touching on it, but I think we're about 200 years past where we should be in having this discussion. And that is that what the thought process is contempt of cop. It is that you are black and we have told you to do something and we expect you to do it. Law enforcement continually repeats this theme of the foundation of how policing comes to be. Slave patrols, controlling the movement of black people at all costs. And so while we logically don't understand it because we cannot get into the minds of that type of pathology, it makes sense to me of 20 years of watching this and now studying this, because we see this continually. We do not see the same kind of pretextual stops and misrepresentation of taser, and shooting a gun of white people. As my colleague Greg Hudson just said, we saw this on the 6th. It was very clear. They fired one shot on the 6th at an insurrection where people had guns and cops were being murdered, beat, tased. They were doing everything you could do to a police officer. And you saw this extreme discipline. Yet every time the subject is black or brown or appears to be, we've got these excuses that we're making for this misbehavior and this police violence that is inherent against people of color in this country.
And the thing that, The thing that is amazing to me here is how immediately it becomes, oh, it's just pity the officer involved. Listen to this nonsense from Martha McCallum on Fox News today.
But it also makes sure there's due process and fairness.
Yeah, I mean, that is the question. And you hear all these individuals talking about reform and accountability, and you hear the emotion also coming from these police officers. We just heard it from the sheriff. We heard it earlier from the chief of police who oversaw the officer who committed this act. And, you know, you have to think about that person as well today, because that officer's life is forever changed by this what is being referred to as an accident. You know, what needs to be done? I mean, you all looked at this in so many different ways.
Really, Cheryl? So the officer, her life is forever changed. He's dead, though. He can't come back.
You know, they say that her life is forever changed, but, you know, I can't speak to this officer's heart, certainly, but we do know that many of these officers are repeat offenders. Here in California, Vallejo Police Department has a group referred to as the Fatal 14. Why? Because they've had numerous fatal shootings. And so is this her first encounter? Will it be her last? I don't know. But unless and until there's accountability that's commensurate with the mistake, with the oops, then officers are going to continue to live to offend again. And qualified immunity is certainly a problem. But before we get to that, why don't we take a look at decertifying officers once they're found having committed some sort of policy violation, fired from that department, so they don't have the benefit of then going next door and joining a neighboring police department and doing the same thing all over again.
You know, the thing here, Reddit, that we continue to see, that we continue to deal with over and over and over again, is you know, this was an accident, it was this, and then, you know, it's only a few bad apples, and, oh, these things happen. Again, what is strange to me, I think about the story we did out of Florida, where they pulled over these two young men. It was a wrong car. And the brother was about to drive away, and the officers fired into the vehicle. Neither one was in danger. Neither one was going to be hit, killing the brother who was behind the wheel. And the cops pulled over the wrong car. We're going to talk about in a second the lieutenant in Virginia. And in the video, we're going to show it. He says, I do not want to get out of the car. This Daunte Wright story is a perfect example of why a black person's like, hey, I do not want to get out of the car. And all these other folks, again, who keep yelling, well, why did he try to break away and jump in? Look, people do stupid stuff and they freak out. But doing something stupid doesn't mean that you get shot and killed. But we also got to go back to the most basic front. Who the hell stops somebody for air fresheners? Okay, I don't know what the air fresheners hanging from a rearview mirror. Seriously?
Right. And in the case of the lieutenant's stop, I think I heard it called in as a felony stop, which is incorrect. The probable cause that they offered up was that they could not see his license plate, or his license plate was obscured. But Dr. Davis touched on it, man. The foundation of the problem is white supremacy and the way that it permeates the culture of policing in America, especially as it relates to black bodies. Those guns get fired into cars with black drivers. Those people that get choked out on the street are black people. Those people who are murdered in front of us, you know, in broad daylight while the officer sticks his hands in his damn pockets and calmly looks at the camera, are black bodies. That doesn't happen with black officers and white people. In the rare instances that it does, for example, in Minneapolis, the same city that Derek Chauvin is on trial in, the same city where young Daunte Wright just lost his wife, Muhammad Noor shot a white woman, unarmed white woman there while he was on duty, and he is serving at least 12 years in prison as we speak. No police union came to defend him. They didn't get him an attorney. There was none of that Blue Lives Matter talk. So it is very much also a race issue when it comes to how we're policed in this country. And I would say to my fellow officers, those who are currently in service and those who are retired, two of whom are on this show with me today, who were core founding members of NCLEOJ. This is the first time we've ever had an opportunity to speak together. Look at where you put your money, man. Pull out of those unions, man. pull out of those unions and start your own union, similar to what they've done here in St. Louis back in the 70s. The Ethical Society of Police is a predominantly Black officers association, but you can no longer support, man, those people who do this in your community and then pay to have it defended. Derek Chauvin's lawyer is being paid for by the police union there. You need to get out of these collective bargaining agreements. The cities around the country need to reevaluate whether political power and will exist to pull out of those collective bargaining agreements, rip them up, man, so that we can start to see real accountability. That is the only thing that will change this. People going to prison. Derek Chauvin going to prison for the rest of his life is the best training that police officers in Minneapolis can get relative to how to interact with Black citizens who are also protected ostensibly under the Constitution of the United States.
DeLacy, that is a point that I've also long said, that as long as police officers never get indicted, as long as they're found not guilty, they can operate with impunity. But until you begin to have folks go to prison and they realize, I screw up, I might be headed to prison. Amber Geiger, headed to prison. The cop who killed Walter Scott, everybody forgets, that was a mistrial. He pled guilty to civil rights violations, not murder in the state of South Carolina. He's sitting in prison. That is how you deal with Laquan McDonald, that police officer, sitting in prison. That's what we have to deal with. And so it's amazing how the law and order crowd gets real quiet, wrongdoing by cops.
Absolutely. So let's remember, white supremacy is predicated on controlling and maldistributing all of the resources in a community, up to and including us. And as a result, you see pretextual stops, which is what you're talking about when we stop you for something hanging in the mirror. There's no crime. I mean, really, it's supposed to be an obstruction, and it shouldn't be a primary reason for a stop. It should be secondary in many of the places where we do work. Additionally, as Sergeant Dorsey said, you know you don't see the plate, you know who the person is, you know their name, you run the plate, you know the description of the vehicle, you let them go, and we get them another day. In fact, I've mailed tickets or warrants to people to summons them to come to court because they drove off on me. It's not that big a deal, except when it's people of color, because it's a deeper seated issue. It's the real issue of race reckoning in this country around law enforcement, which is why other folks are feeling sympathetic toward an officer. Even if I accepted the officer's argument in this instance that it was an accident, there still must be real consequences for police incompetence. Because at the very minimum, you're incompetent. There's a different amount of power that is needed to squeeze the trigger on a gun than on a taser. You're right. The weight is different. It feels different. It's on a different part of your body. You should be grabbing it differently. And therefore, even in that instance, you must be held accountable. And so our community has to develop the political will. We have to use our economic resources to punish those folks that will not stand up for our community and reward those who do, just as they're screaming about them moving the baseball game and all the other events. What has to happen is that we now have to come together, even with those Black folks who are Negroes on the police force, because we have some who do not have the testicular fortitude to stand up for our community because they believe that they're going to pay a price, and they will, but we must be willing to pay the price. My colleagues here have all paid a very high price for standing up for our community, but we believe that is what we sign up for when we take that oath to protect and serve the community, not the police.
Let's talk about Virginia, where one or two police officers caught on tape pepper spraying and pointing guns at a Black and Latino Army officer, Second Lieutenant Karan Nazario, during the December 6, 2020 traffic stop. That cop has been fired. Okay, the town of Windsor released the following statement yesterday. The statement reads, the pursuit and ultimate stop resulted in the use of pepper spray against Lieutenant Nazario by Officer Gutierrez. As a result of this use of force, department policy requires an internal investigation to determine the appropriateness of such actions. The investigation of this event began immediately. At the conclusion of this investigation, it was determined that Windsor Police Department policy was not followed. This resulted in disciplinary action, and department-wide requirements for additional training were implemented beginning in January and continue up to the president. Since that time, Officer Gutierrez was also terminated from his employment. Folks, first of all, we're not buying that crap, because the only reason that statement came out is because this video got released over the weekend. Social media blew up. Here's a video from the camera of Officer Gutierrez. Watch, listen.
Open the door, door slowly and step out. Open the door. Get out the car. Open the door slowly and get out.
Get out of the car now.
Open the door. Get out the car.
Hold still. Hold. Keep your hands outside the window. Keep your hands outside the window. Get out of the car now.
Get out of the car.
Now. Get out of the car now. Get out of the car now. Yo, look, guess what? I'm a veteran too. I learned to obey. Get out of the car. Get out of the car now. What's going on is you're fixing to ride the lightning, son. Get out of the car now. Get out of the car now. Get out of the car.
Sir, just get out the car. Work with us and we'll talk to you. Get out the car.
You received an order. Obey it.
I'm honestly afraid to get out. Can I?
Yeah, you should be. Get out.
What's
Get out.
going on?
Get out the car.
Get out
I
now.
have not committed any crime.
You're being stopped for a traffic violation. You're not cooperating at this point right now. You're under arrest for. You're being detained. Okay, you're being detained for obstruction of justice.
Traffic violation. I do not have to get out the vehicle. You haven't even told
Really?
me why I'm being stopped.
Really?
Get
out of the car now. Get out of the car.
Get your hands off me.
Get out of the car.
Get your hands off me.
You know what?
Get your hands off me.
Not a problem.
Hands off me.
Back up,
I
Daniel.
didn't do anything. Don't do that.
Sir.
Get out of the car now.
Hey, sir.
Get out of the car now.
Sir,
I'm trying to talk
Get out.
to you.
Okay.
I'm trying to
I'm gonna
talk.
talk.
Get out.
Just get out
Relax.
of my car.
Can you please
Get out.
relax? Can
Get
you
out.
Please relax.
Get out of the car right now. Now.
This is not how you treat a vet. I'm actively serving this country, and this is how you're gonna treat me.
Back up, Daniel.
I didn't do anything.
Back up.
Whoa, hold on.
Daniel.
What's going? Hold on. Watch it.
Get out of the car. Get out of the car now.
That's fucked up.
Get out of the car now.
Sir, just get out the car.
I'm trying to breathe.
Get out of the car now.
That's fucked up. That's really fucked up.
Yeah, get out of the car and get on the ground now. You're gonna get it again.
I don't even want to reach for my seatbelt. Can you?
Take your seatbelt off and get out of the car.
Can you please?
Get out of the car now. Listen, take off your seatbelt and get out of the car.
Look, I'm just gonna please.
You're gonna do what you're told. Get out of the car.
Look,
Take your seatbelt off and get out of the. Take your seatbelt off.
look, my hands are out.
Take your seatbelt off and get out of the car.
My hands are out.
Don't reach in there, Daniel. Don't reach in there.
My hands are out. Please. Please, look. This is really messed up. My dog is in the back. My dog is choking right now.
Get out of the car. Take your seatbelt off. What are you, a specialist, corporal? What are you?
I'm a lieutenant.
Lieutenant, get out of the car. Take your seatbelt off and get out of the car. You made this way more difficult than it had to be if you just complied. Get out of the car.
I'm reaching for my seatbelt.
Fine. Take your seatbelt off and get out of the car. Straight onto the ground. Straight onto the ground.
Ma'am.
Is your commanding officer available?
Down. Let's go.
Is your commanding
Let's
officer
go.
available?
Get on the ground. Get on the
Can you
ground.
please talk to
Get
me
on the
about
ground
what's going
now.
on?
Get on the ground and you're getting sprayed again. Get on the ground.
Can you please talk to me about what's
Get on
going
the ground.
on?
Get on the ground now.
Can you please talk to me
Get on
about
the
what's
ground.
going on? Can you please talk to me about what's
Yes, sir.
going on?
You're not.
Can you please talk to me about what's going on? Why am I being treated like this? Why?
Because you're not cooperating. Get on the ground.
Why am I being treated like this? This is really messed up. This is really messed up.
Sir, well, just work with me.
This is fucked up. This is fucked up. This is fucked up. This is fucked up. This is fucked up.
Now, that was the video from Officer Gutierrez. This is the video of, I'm going to show some of this, of Nazario. He was shooting from his cell phone. Go.
Let me see your hands. How many occupants are in the vehicle?
What's going on?
How many occupants are in your vehicle?
It's only myself. Why are your weapons drawn? What's going
Open
on?
the door slowly and step out. Open the door!
I'm not getting out the vehicle. What's going on?
Get out of the car! Open the door slowly and get out!
What's going on?
Get out of the car! Now! Open the door and get out of the car!
Hold. Keep your hands outside the window. Keep your hands outside the window.
My hands are right here. What's going
Get
on?
out of the car now.
Get out of the car!
What's
Now.
going on?
Get out of the car now. Get out of the car now.
I'm serving this country and this is how I'm treated?
Yo, what? Guess what? I'm a veteran too. I'm gonna obey.
That's
Get
not-
out of the car.
What's going
Get out
on?
of the car now.
What's going on?
What's going on? You're fixing to ride the lightning, son.
I'm sorry, what?
Get out of the car now.
What's going
Get out of
on?
the car now. Get out of the car.
Sir, just get out of the car. Work with us and we'll talk to you. Get out the car.
You received an order. Obey it.
I'm honestly afraid to get out. Can I
Yeah, you
ask you
should
what's
be.
going?
Get out.
What's
Get out.
going on? What
Get
did
out
I
the
do?
car.
Get out now.
I have not committed any crimes.
You're being stopped for a traffic violation. You're not cooperating at this point right now. You're under arrest
For a traffic-
You're being detained. Okay, you're being detained for
For a
obstruction of justice.
traffic violation, I do not have to get out the vehicle. You haven't even told me
Really?
why I'm being stopped.
Really?
Get your hands.
Get out of the car now. Get out of the car.
Get your hands off me,
Get out of
please.
the-
Get your hands off me.
You know what?
Get your hands off me.
Not
Get
a
your
problem.
hands off me.
Back up there.
I didn't do anything. Don't do that.
Sir.
Get out of the car
Don't
now.
do that.
Hey,
get out
Don't
of
do
the car
that.
now.
Right. So
Don't do that.
this all started because Nazario is driving a new vehicle, tinted windows, had a paper license plate that was taped to the window. They hit their lights to pull him over. He continued to drive to a well-lit gas station. He pulled into a BP gas station. Let's bring back our law enforcement panel. Okay, so let's walk through this. First, Reddit, I'll start with you. The officer radios and said a felony traffic stop. What was the felony?
There wasn't a, that's what I'm saying in the other discussion we were having. There was no felony, man. The probable cause that was indicated that I'm aware of was something to do with his license plate. That doesn't constitute a felony stop. A felony stop involves a vehicle that's wanted for a felony, assault first, or something like that, or something you saw on view committed by a person who then is leaving in the vehicle. This is neither of those. And again, it comes back to the theme. When you hear the directives that this officer is issuing, it's all about do what I say. There is never an attempt at any point where it would have been reasonable to tell the guy, hey, man, we stopped you because we couldn't see your plate. And we had to, stop you and get some clarity on the vehicle and its occupant. And that's why we're standing right here, as opposed to the escalation that we see over and over and over again when it comes to police exercising the power that they've been given by the state. And too many times it's exercised recklessly, as it was in this case. And unfortunately for this officer, he was caught on camera because, had he not been caught on camera, none of the consequences that have followed would be in place. I doubt that he would have lost his job. I doubt that he would have been disciplined. But thank God for the cameras. Thank God for the increasing number of voices we hear around the country. I would single out the two panelists who were here with me, Sergeant Cheryl Dorsey, Dr. DeLacy Davis here in St. Louis, Sergeant Heather Taylor, retired Sergeant Heather Taylor, Keith Williams out on the West Coast, and others around the country who have forced this conversation and now finding ourselves joined in the dialogue by people who understand we're at a critical point, man. You can't go back. You can't tinker around the edges with this system relative to reforms. The system needs to be remade. The way we do public safety needs to be remade. So he was out of line and he shouldn't be in police work.
Cheryl, you hear Gutierrez yell, "You're going to ride the lightning," which actually was a phrase from the movie The Green Mile, where one of the characters was on death row. That's where that came from. You heard the aggression in his voice. You heard the calm nature of Nazario. Why are you pulling me over? I don't understand. No, just get out of the car. Then Gutierrez yells, it's obstruction of justice. How? You haven't even told me why I'm being pulled over. At no point do you hear them ask, I mean, they come out of the car with guns. So if I'm Nazario, I'm the same way. I don't know what the hell is going on. I'm not about to get out of a car and two cops both got guns on me. I don't know what's going to happen.
So, this was a situation in my mind where we have a tenured veteran officer, white man, who's going to show that little young rookie how to tame a black man. Let me show what you do with a Negro who doesn't respond to orders. He was reaching and grabbing for all sorts of justifications. You're under arrest for obstruction. No, you're being detained. And you can see the rookie officer, he doesn't know what the hell's going on. He's looking left, right. He's trying to figure out what his senior training officer is doing. He's trying to mimic some of the actions that he sees the more seasoned officer engage in. This is not a training issue. This is somebody who has animus because a black man had the temerity to not follow his order. And so for that, sir, you will pay.
And the thing here that is crazy, DeLacy, again, watching this, and we're going to pull the video up in a second of when a senior officer comes to the scene and they're providing him treatment. But Nazario says that you guys threatened my military career. That also happened during this encounter.
This isn't about, as my colleague just said, about training. I think it's about training day. I started the conversation with the mentality. We're talking about a warrior mentality versus a guardian mentality. We're talking about law enforcement versus public safety. We're absolutely talking about a lack of respect for black and brown men by white men, period. It's as simple as that. It's not convoluted. You don't have to reach for straws. We don't have to go train anybody to de-escalate. The lieutenant was de-escalating. Through all of this, he was very calm in his demeanor. They were giving conflicting commands. One little idiot tells him to get out the car and take off the seatbelt. The other one says, keep your hands out the window. Well, how do I get the seatbelt off with my hands out the window?
Right.
Taught training, be quiet, and one person gives commands.
All right, so and also to show how, to your point, how you have these racist white men, how they look. Here's this racist Greg Kelly, who you see on Newsmax. And again, I need everybody to understand how narrative is set. This is what he tweets. Troublemaker, Lieutenant Nazario, should be kicked out of the military. His stupid actions and unwillingness to comply with very basic instructions from police means he's incapable of ever leading. Go to the next one. Now, this is the one that cracks me up. One more little tidbit. The bad Lieutenant Nazario had a loaded gun on the floor of the car, in the front seat, by his leg, something the corrupt folks in the media won't say for some reason. Greg, Virginia is an open carry state. I thought y'all loved the Second Amendment. It's an open carry state. You literally don't have to have a permit to have a gun in a vehicle in Virginia. But you see how the racist white man on Newsmax, Greg Kelly, wants to frame it as, oh, this out-of-control black man, and then go back to it. He goes, one great cop is Lieutenant Joe Gutierrez, a Marine vet. He shows compassion, sensitivity, and yes, appropriate aggressiveness. The EMTs were very courteous as well. Nice job, Windsor, Virginia. Well, Greg, you might want to help them pay this big-ass settlement they about to pay, because it's about to happen. But again, just to show, just to show again the sheer racism, this fool here literally says, I've seen generals with less attitude, arrogance, and swagger than this second lieutenant. Anybody who sees the video saw Lieutenant Nazario as cool and calm as collected. Here's what the governor of Virginia had to say, Ralph Northam. This is the statement that he actually released. Pull it up, please. The incident in Windsor is disturbing and angered me, and I am directing the Virginia State Police to conduct an independent investigation. Our Commonwealth has done important work on police reform, but we must keep working to ensure that Virginians are safe during interactions with police. The enforcement of laws is fair and equitable, and people are held accountable. I'm inviting Army Medic Lieutenant Karan Nazario to meet soon. We must all continue the larger dialogue about reform in our country. Cheryl, he has filed a civil suit against Windsor. They know they're going to have to pay up, because here's the deal. He was released after all of that. No charges. So why the hell did you pull him over?
And, we see this time and time again. And, I often talk about what happens when a police officer kills one of us. And then, of course, there's only one story to tell, and it's the one that they've crafted and created. Thankfully, Lieutenant Nazario did not lose his life. The governor wants him to come meet with him. I hope he doesn't let him talk him out of the civil suit. Let them go ahead and throw buckets of money at him like they always do when they harm or kill us. They do nothing to change substantively that police policy. And I hope that someone in Virginia will take up legislation that will decertify officers like we're trying to do here in California, so that this Gutierrez can't go to another department right next door. Firing him was a great first step, but that doesn't preclude him from joining another police department who's sympathetic, like we saw with Timothy Loman. After he shot and killed Tamir Rice, there was a neighboring agency who decided they wanted to give him a second chance, but it was really a third chance. And so we see time and time again officers being gifted resignation and then being well compensated. Betty Shelby shot and killed Terrence Crutcher. This heifer's now teaching how to get away with murder. I call it, they call it, how to survive a critical incident. And so it's outrageous that this continues to happen, but for accountability, substantive accountability, this will continue.
Reddit, that's just what it boils down to. And when we talk about the actions taken to stop this, we see what has taken place in the state of Maryland, where the legislature there, they have actually overwritten vetoes of various bills by the governor of Maryland. A bold move, if you will. Lawmakers repealed the Law Enforcement Officers' Bill of Rights, making the first state to do so. The Law Enforcement Officers' Bill of Rights would have protected police officers from investigation and prosecution. New rules have been put in place requiring officers to prioritize de-escalation tactics, and imposes a criminal penalty for those found to have used excessive force. Also, discipline for officers who use excessive force will be largely decided by civilian panels, with police chiefs still maintaining a role in the decision. How important is this action by the Maryland legislature to override these vetoes by Governor Larry Hogan?
Oh, I think it's huge, man. I think it's huge, and I think it could become a model or precedent for other places around the country that have the kind of political mass that they had there in Maryland. They had to have enough votes to override the governor's veto, which they did, and rightfully so. I think you're going to see changes in terms of outcomes in police encounters there in Maryland, and I think you can see those same changes anywhere that those kinds of moves are made. To Sergeant Dorsey's point, that certification piece is critical. It has to be looked at. Qualified immunity must be done away with. And I think we have to start looking at these collective bargaining agreements that unions put in place, many of which include the kinds of disciplinary protections and lack of transparency and time between the time that you commit a crime or are involved in a critical incident, and you have to provide a statement, you get all this time to get your story together, and all these other protections that the average citizen like you and me don't get when we commit a crime. So I think it's huge, and I think the nation is ready for that. I've said on in other spaces, our top-line administration, the Biden administration, now is the time for courage, man. This is not the time to be waffling around and nibbling at the edges and tinkering with quote-unquote reforms. You all were put in office on a mandate, a nationwide mandate to do something about the racism that is at the foundation of criminal justice and most intensely reflected in police culture and police encounters between Black people and the police and the communities they live in. We have an opportunity now to do that, and I'm confident that we're going to keep doing that, although I'm aware that there's going to be a fight in it because the other side is well-resourced and committed to the white supremacy that's at the foundation of the system they serve. and maintaining the status quo.
DeLacy, the thing here also when you're dealing with white liberals who don't get it, take James Carville. He was on a interview with Weekly Standard editor Bill Kristol where he was bitching and moaning about cancel culture and what he called the drag on identity politics. And this is what he said. It's the thing that I'm most worried about. Carville told Kristol about these issues. They're always trying to get somebody fired. They're outraged at somebody all the time, and it just wears people down. This is Carville. He ripped defund the police. But here's the reality. The people who advocated for defund the police, who were pushing for as an aggressive stance as possible, that's what leads to what took place in Maryland. That's what leads to what took place with the New York City Council and the same thing when it came to the immunity clause with police officers. That's why we're seeing the changes. And so Carville, for all of his focus on let's just get Democrats elected, well, Carville, white boys like you not getting shot and killed. White mamas are not having to be on television like Deontay's mama and Eric Garner's mama. See, that's what's not happening. See, so all these folk who will say, oh, y'all shouldn't be, oh, it's like this is hurting us politically. No, it's hurting us as a community and as a nation.
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of things. There's racism with the liberals and the conservatives, right? Because at the end of the day, we still continue to lose at the end of the day. I don't think that anybody else gets to tell us what hurts and how long we should cry about it and how we should respond to it. I want to acknowledge Senator Jill Carter in Maryland because we've been working with her office and others in that community since 1997. So that's how long it has taken Maryland to get to where they are today, because people like Jill Carter and those who preceded her were taking on this fight long before it was popular. And so the Carvilles of the world, you're right, their children, they're not having the talk with their little white children, Joey, Tom, Bob, Susie, whoever else they've got in their community, but we do. They're not ducking. They're not dealing with double consciousness. They're not dealing with double marginality. The reality that black folks have got to constantly have to be seen through the eyes of white America, which is what you heard when that officer was giving commands and demands to the lieutenant. What he was essentially saying was, boy, stay in your place. And because you're out of your place, I'm going to correct you. And that's what we're talking about. What we're really talking about is America's racial reckoning. She has been exposed. The vulnerabilities have been exposed. The inequities have been exposed. And so folks have to pick a side. And that's where we are at this point. What side are you on? Are you on the side of right, social justice, fairness, equity? Or are you on the side of we want to give them a little bit of justice, but we want to maintain power and control over the resources in this country?
Here's why I'm laughing, Cheryl. Carville says Biden doesn't get involved in all of this, and I think that's smart. He just keeps talking about what he talks about, and I think it's smart because once you get drawn into it, they're like they never stop. But President Biden also, but he's also, of course, he said he was going to establish a National Police Oversight Commission within his first 100 days. It's not being placed on hold. Why? Because the White House got with national civil rights organizations and police unions and decided the commission is not necessary, redundant, and that more focus should be placed on meaningful police reform that brings profound, urgently needed change. Biden's administration is in full support of the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act. The thing here, Cheryl, which again, while I'm laughing, is because, oh, right, a commission. Obama had one. Okay, don't create another damn commission. Change the damn laws.
That's right.
Absolutely. And, you know, this whole George Floyd Justice and Reform and Policing Act, it sounds good and sexy, but the fact of the matter is there are no real teeth behind it. A lot of the things that they're proposing, some of it is already being done. Putting officers on a registry nationally is certainly not going to stop a Derek Chauvin. Every police officer who cuts up is on a list somewhere. Do you think that they didn't know who Derek Chauvin was? He had 18 personnel complaints. And so I've been very vocal about this whole national registry. And, you know, the police chief there in Minneapolis taking the stand and speaking out. And, you know, everybody wanted to give him kudos and a pat on the back. He gets no brownie points from me. He's been the chief over there for 2 years. They know exactly who Derek Chauvin was, yet they allowed him to live to offend again. And the other officer, the Asian officer, Tao, who stood sentry, he was responsible for a $25,000 settlement because he hit a black man in the head with a flashlight and knocked his teeth out. So knowing who they are, discussing it, having a panel, a registry, and all of that good stuff, is meaningless and it will do nothing to deter these officers. In the midst of this George Floyd trial, we still see outrageous and egregious behavior. They haven't been able to control themselves since last May, and here we are today talking about Daunte Wright in the midst of everything that's gone on nationally.
Folks, and while that is happening, the Daunte Wright shooting, we have the protest there. Of course, the trial of Derek Chauvin is taking place in the murder of George Floyd. We're in the third week. In the final day, the prosecutors called a variety of witnesses, including the brother of George Floyd. Earlier, though, Judge Peter Cahill ruled that Floyd's friend Maurice Hall will not testify. He also turned down a defense request to actually sequester the jury. Here is a roundup of today's testimony.
Do you have an opinion as to whether George Floyd would have lived if not for Mr. Chauvin's subdual and restraint of him for 9 minutes and 29 seconds on the ground?
Yeah. Overruled. A reasonable degree of medical certainty.
Yes, I believe he would have lived.
What role, if any, do you feel that the fentanyl played in the cause of Mr. Floyd's death?
As far as I can tell from reviewing all of the facts of the case, I see no evidence at all to suggest that a fentanyl overdose caused Mr. Floyd's death.
As cardiologists, do you occasionally have to care for patients who struggle with opioids or opioid addiction?
Absolutely.
So here you found that the fentanyl, in your opinion, played no role in Mr. Floyd's death. Would you tell us why it is you hold that opinion? How do you reach that conclusion?
Well, I think I would break it down to just two major reasonings. Number one, it appeared to me that Mr. Floyd, who was an acknowledged frequent chronic user of substances, particularly opiates, likely developed a high degree of tolerance. There's even one emergency room visit that I had reviewed where he came in and he told the emergency room team that, he was tearful and says, I'm having trouble with substance abuse. I think he said I took 8 Percocets within 2 hours. He had no side effects from that at all. They observed him for a couple hours and they discharged him. And just so looking through it, looked like he had built up a high tolerance just in general to opiates. But the second, and just as important, maybe more important, was I didn't see any of the signs of an opiate overdose when I reviewed the videos.
So Dr. Rich, then, taking into account all of the evidence that you reviewed, do you have an opinion to a reasonable degree of medical certainty as to whether Mr. Floyd's death was preventable?
Yes, I do.
Would you tell us what that opinion is?
Yes, I believe that Mr. George Floyd's death was absolutely preventable.
You testified that Mr. Floyd, based on your review of the video, did start complaining of shortness of breath prior to being placed in the prone position, right?
Yes, I heard on more than one occasion he say the words, I can't breathe.
And if Mr. Floyd had simply gotten in the back seat of the squad car, do you think that he would have survived?
Objection, Your Honor. It's not calling for medical testimony.
You may give if you have a medical opinion as to that.
Overruled to that extent.
So, had he not been restrained in the way in which he was, I think he would have survived that day. I think he would have gone home or wherever he was going to go had he not been subjected to the prone and positional restraint that he was.
So in other words, if he had gotten in the squad car, he'd be alive.
I think my answer remains the same. Anything other than that scenario that he was subjected to, I have no reason to think from a medical perspective that he would not have survived that day, correct?
Sir, would you please describe this photo and what you know about it?
That's my mother. She's no longer with us right now, but that's my oldest brother, George. Yeah. I miss both of them. I was married. And May 24th, I got married. And my brother was killed May 25th. And my mom died on May 30th. So it's like a bittersweet month because I'm supposed to be happy when that month comes.
Sir, I'm going to ask you some questions about your mom's passing a little bit. If you need a moment, I can take a minute. And just let me know when you're ready. Okay.
I'm ready.
I want to get the thoughts of our panel again on how the prosecution laid this whole thing out. DeLacy, I want to start with you. I can't recall the last time I saw a trial when an officer was on trial, and you had the number of police officers testifying against that cop for the prosecution.
I would agree with you. I think it's rare. My colleague, Sergeant Dorsey, and I, we've been bantering back and forth earlier in the week in this trial about whether or not the police chief's testimony set the tone for the department or gave coverage to others to come forward. But this is one of the rare times in my 20-plus years of seeing this many officers come out against a police officer in this kind of case. So I think that's been great. I'm concerned, to be honest with you, that reasonable doubt has been established. And again, they may hang the jury. I'm just not sure. And I think they began to lay out this argument that somehow George Floyd killed himself. But I agree that this is one of the more aggressive prosecutions that I've seen from a prosecutor in terms of bringing officers forward to make the case.
Cheryl?
I believe that the police chief is still in damage control. They have given the family $27 million to try to assuage them, placate them. Like I said, he knew exactly who Derek Chauvin was. We had heard from the on-scene supervisor who had worked with, supervised Derek Chauvin since 2008. And yet they allowed him to stay on the department with 18 personnel complaints. And so for that, I'm not impressed. But we heard them try to humanize Mr. Floyd and talk about who he was to his friends and to his family. And now next week, it's probably going to be very triggering for a lot of people because the defense is going to do their level best to now put George Floyd on trial. And so we need to remember that George Floyd is not on trial. Derek Chauvin is. And we need to respect his humanity. And had Mr. Chauvin shown some respect for George Floyd, he would be here today.
Reddit?
Absolutely. I agree with everything that I've just heard. I would give the chief maybe a half point more than my colleague Sergeant Dorsey would, because he took the stand and effectively said that, Derek Chauvin murdered this guy. He violated our policies. He violated our morals and ethics, him being aware of those things prior to his statement notwithstanding. But the brother, the attorney, I can't remember his name right now, who has been handling most of the expert witnesses, has been on par excellence, man. I think you can't lay a better foundation for a reasonable jury than he has to establish the fact that Derek Chauvin murdered George Floyd. And we all saw it on camera. You can believe your eyes. And I'm hopeful, although I have some of the same reservations that Dr. Davis has relative to a conviction. But I'm hopeful that a reasonable jury receiving that evidence is going to send Derek to prison for the rest of his life.
Absolutely. Well, look, I certainly appreciate all three of you, the work that y'all are doing to try to make police departments better in this country. We need to show our appreciation. Thank you for all of your hard work and joining us today.
Thank you, Roland.
All right, folks, got to go to a break. When we come back, we'll tell you the case of a missing black woman in Louisiana. And also, Republicans are really going after Kristen Clarke big time when it comes to keeping her from being in the Department of Justice, heading the Civil Rights Division. We'll talk about that with her former employer, the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law, and we'll pay tribute to DMX. All of that in the second hour of Roland Martin Unfiltered. Back in a moment.
I believe that it's movement time again.
In America today, the economy is not working for working people.
The poor and the needy are being abused.
You are the victims of power, and this is the abuse of economic power.
I'm 23 years old. I work 3 jobs.
Work 7 days a week.
No days off.
They're paying people pennies on the dollar compared to what they profit, and it is time for this to end.
Essential workers have been showing up to work, feeding us, caring for us, delivering goods to us throughout this entire pandemic, and they've been doing it on a measly $7.25 minimum wage.
The highest check I ever got was nearly $291. I can't take it no more.
You know, the fight for 15 is a lot more than about $15 an hour. This is about a fight for your dignity.
We have got to recognize that working people deserve livable wages.
And it's long past time for this nation to go to 15 so that moms and dads don't have to choose between asthma inhalers and rent.
I'm halfway homeless.
The main reason that people end up in their cars is because income does not match housing cost.
If I could just only work one job, I could have more time with them.
It is time for the owners of Walmart, McDonald's, Dollar General, and other large corporations to get off welfare and pay their workers a living wage.
And if you really want to tackle racial equity, you have to raise the minimum wage.
We're not just fighting for our families, we're fighting for yours too.
We need this. I'm going to fight for it until we get it. I'm not going to give up.
We just need all workers to stand up as one nation and just fight together.
Families are relying on these salaries, and they must be paid at a minimum $15 an hour.
$15 a minimum. Anyone should be making this to be able to stay out of poverty.
I can't take it no more. I'm doing this for not only me, but for everybody. We need 15 right now.
Hey, I'm Amber Stevens-West.
Yo, what up, y'all? This is Jay Ellis, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, folks, strange story out of Louisiana where an LSU student from Opelousas, Louisiana, Kori Gautier, has been missing for almost a week. On last Tuesday, the LSU freshman's car was found abandoned on the I-10 Mississippi Bridge in Baton Rouge, where another driver struck the vehicle in a crash. Now, her car was still running with her personal belongings in the car, including a purse and cell phone. The car was towed away. Her family didn't know she was missing until she didn't show up for work the next day. Now, the question is, why didn't the Baton Rouge Police Department notify the registered owner of the car after the crash earlier that day? Law enforcement and volunteers, including the Cajun Navy, are searching for Gautier, focusing much of their attention on a part of the Mississippi River. University officials released the following statement. If you have any information regarding Kori Gautier that would assist in the search, please call either LSU Police at 225-578-3231 or Baton Rouge Police at 225-389-2000. Gautier is 5 feet 5 inches tall with brown eyes, dark hair, and weighs between about 120 pounds. Folks, again, they have been vigils, and there have been all kinds of different events taking place. Here's some video here, folks in kayaks actually going down the Mississippi River there, going into places where it's hard for boats to get to. They've been searching there. What's strange again about this case was the fact that the car was found still running on the highway. Here's more video here, folks. Go ahead and roll it, please. More video here of them searching all over. They're trying to find her, and it's just a constant, it's just confusing to so many people, but people are really, really angry that she comes up missing. She comes up missing, and they tow the car, and they don't call the family. This here is an interview that a journalist, Courtney Williams, did with her uncle Spencer Gautier about 3 days ago. Listen.
We're asking for any and all volunteers to come out here near LSU campus off of Skip Burtman Drive. If any of you guys are willing to help walk the levee, search for her body, fly your drones. Some of you may, have boats to get access from anywhere from the Sunshine Bridge all the way to this Mississippi Bridge. We're just asking for any and all volunteers. Any help will be grateful and muchly appreciated.
And what has the last 48 hours have been for you as well as your family?
Honestly, it's been a roller coaster of emotions. But in a time like this, I think it's very critical that you just keep pushing. Don't give up. Keep fighting. That's what I told myself. That's what I'm going to continue to tell myself. And I'm sure we'll find her.
And I know we talked just a few minutes ago about false information being put out. So what do you want to let the public know right now?
Yeah, I want to let the public know that we are still actively searching for my niece. She has not been found, despite numerous social media posts that she has been. Please, guys, stop with the false information because it is hindering the investigation. We're doing everything that we can to find her. If you do know her whereabouts, feel free to post information on the United Cajun Navy, contact the local police, bring her to a local hospital, call the police. Anything will help. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much for your time. Again, that search will start at 8 o'clock here this morning. If you or anyone...
All right, folks, again, so please, if you have any information, please notify the Baton Rouge Police Department, Kori Gautier. Just certainly a sad, sad story. All right, folks, let's come back to what's happening in Washington, D.C., folks. She's being considered to become the first black woman to lead the Department of Justice's Civil Rights Division. President Joe Biden's nomination of Kristen Clarke is being met with critical opposition by Republicans. I wonder why. Joining me now is the Director of Special Litigation and Advocacy for the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law, Dorian Spence. Dorian, it's been quite interesting to sit here and see all the back and forth. First they targeted Vanita Gupta, now they're targeting Kristen Clarke. I don't think Republicans really like strong women who are civil rights lawyers.
They don't, and the standard is absolutely different that's applied to women of color than there are to their white male counterparts. And what we've seen across or over the past couple of months are vicious attacks that are getting at, that are trying to attack Kristen Clarke's character. But the fact of the matter is that her record on the front of civil rights is unimpeachable. As you know, she started her career at the Department of Justice in the Voting Rights Division, moving on to her time at the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, where she fought for the voting rights of communities of color, primarily in the South. And then her impeccable record as leading the Civil Rights Division for the state of New York. And for the past 5 years, she served as the president and executive director for the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law, my organization, which has been at the forefront of the fight for the civil rights of Black people and other communities of color. And what we're seeing out of the Republican wing of the Senate is absolutely sickening.
If she is confirmed, she'll be the first woman who's actually confirmed for the full time. You've had interim folks who served the position, but never a woman confirmed to head the Civil Rights Division.
Absolutely. And in the 64-year history, that is troubling. Right. We know that Vanita Gupta served as the acting AG, but she was not confirmed by the Senate. And she faced similar attacks from the Republican wing of the Senate Confirmation Committee, and similar to what we are seeing against Kristen Clarke. I think that the Republicans on this particular committee know what her record is, and they know that over this past voting rights season, the Lawyers Committee was at the forefront of the fight for voting rights, in that we filed 50 lawsuits across the country challenging discriminatory voting practices. We've filed many lawsuits challenging housing discrimination across the country, and even fighting on behalf of Black immigrants and other communities of color. Our record in the record that Kristen Clarke has led is one that has really pushed for anti-discrimination laws, anti-discrimination policies, and for the rights of the most marginalized communities in this country.
So what are you hopeful? How are you also mobilizing other Black lawyers and others to stand with Kristen as she comes under these attacks by Republicans in the Senate?
Absolutely, Roland. Well, as you know, as well as I, and the civil rights and racial justice community across the country, these attacks are threadbare. They're thin. They're going back to things that she allegedly said in college, or people she aligned herself with in college. But her record is you can't question it, right? This is what the Civil Rights Division was put here to do. It was put here to protect the civil rights of all Americans, right? It's the crown jewel, or it's been referred to as the crown jewel of the Department of Justice. And what we've seen over the past 3 months is a groundswell of support from civil rights leaders, from Cheryl Knifel to her colleague Benita Gupta, to even police officers with the IACP and the National Organization for Black Law Enforcement. So we're not by ourselves here. And our colleagues on both sides of the aisle, in more conservative leading organizations as well, have supported Kristen Clarke because they know that she's the right person for the job. She's not just picked because she's a blackface and they want a blackface in that position. She's picked because she's done the work and she's dedicated her life and her career to protecting not only the rights of Black people, but the civil rights of all Americans.
All right, then. Well, Dorian Spence, we're certainly going to be watching that hearing with intense focus on Wednesday. We certainly appreciate you joining us.
Always good to see you, Roland.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. All right, folks, got to go to a break. When we come back, we'll pay tribute to the life and legacy of Earl DMX Simmons, who passed away Friday at the age of 50. We'll be back on Roland Martin Unfiltered in a moment.
Some love sent their way. Who needs love? Who needs love? Who needs a little love today? Who needs some love sent their way? Who needs love? Who needs love?
Hey, I'm Donnie Simpson.
What's up? I'm Lance Gross, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Folks, it has been a very difficult weekend for the world of hip-hop after the death of DMX on Friday. His family removed him from life support at the age of 50. A week earlier, he had suffered a heart attack after an overdose. So many people spent this weekend posting photos and videos, remembering the moments they met DMX, talking about the impact of his music, his battles with addiction, his dealing with his demons, all of the different videos of prayers and interviews, and all that has been quite an intense look at the life of DMX over the last weekend. Here's some of the folks who posted social media posts. LeBron James, rest in peace. Congressman Jamal Bowen, rest in peace to Mount Vernon's own DMX. Your humanity, music, and spirit will forever be felt by the people you touched around the globe. T.I., rest in peace to a cultural icon. There are no words that can mend the loss of the hip-hop community felt today. Hashtag RIP DMX. Viola Davis, RIP DMX. I pray for the comfort of your children and loved ones. Also, Wesley Snipes, rest in power, brother. Hashtag DMX. Bootsy Collins, we lost him, y'all. Mr. Earl Simmons, known by his stage name DMX, was an American rapper, songwriter, and actor. Prayers going out to his family and friends. RIP, our dear brother, Bootsy, baby. Chance the Rapper, rest in heaven, DMX. And also David Michael Ladd, he came into our movie like a force, confident, excited, professional. He did almost 30 pages in one day, no complaints, treated everyone with respect and love. RIP DMX, you will be missed. Of course, this here was a post as well there, folks. And so again, That was the rapper Eve. Here's Gabrielle Union, who was in one of the movies with him. No words right now. Nothing but fierce love, prayers, and protection for ex's family, friends, and fans. This loss is devastating. Another videos, folks, that were posted, and one of those posted came from Russell Simmons, and I'm going to play that a little bit later. He talked about how DMX saved Def Jam after they had fallen on hard times. But we got a number of people who are on the line to share their thoughts and reflections with regards to DMX. Chuck Creekmore, he is the CEO of allhiphop.com. Kenny Burns, he is Senior Vice President of Brand Development for Combs Enterprises. He joins us right now as well. We also have My Son, the New York General. He is with us. And Daytwan Thomas, Editor-in-Chief of Vibe Magazine. All of them are joining us, and so I'm glad to have all of you. Let me first start with you. Let's see. Chuck, I'll start with you. You've covered DMX for a number of years. Just talk about just his impact on hip-hop, on music, and just the consecutive number of platinum albums he dropped, just unreal.
Yeah, I mean, DMX was a force. He was one of the few rappers, few artists, period, that managed to change the entire landscape of music, to take, a genre as powerful as hip hop, which was going in one direction, and make it go in another completely different direction. And we only have a few artists that are like that. There's not many in the history of music, much less, something like as strong as hip hop. So I was blessed and privileged enough to interview DMX on a number of occasions and spend time with him on other occasions, see him live many times, and be a fan as well as a journalist about the music. So, this really hurts. We're feeling this. A lot of us are talking amongst ourselves, quietly shedding tears over someone who was really a part of our extended family, hip hop family. Even it feels like a blood relative, and it's hard to explain that to folks out in the world sometimes. But that's exactly how we're expressing it through the videos and just the reflections. And I think the best thing that you could have done was to share those words from folks that knew him, worked with him, rather than those that would judge him through the media or the news headlines and things of that sort.
Kenny, I want to go to you. It was very interesting looking at the reaction because, first of all, we're dealing with somebody who sound is unmistakable. We talk always about folks who are distinct. The moment you heard DMX, you knew who he was. There was nobody else who sounded like DMX.
Right. Yeah, no, I remember when Rough Riders Anthem came out. First, I remember the tunnel, and I remember seeing it live. But when Rough Riders Anthem came out, he started the song off with "This is something new," and I don't think we'd ever heard any aggression like that in hip hop. The way he delivered it so clearly, so passionately, so poetically, and it's bugged out to me that when he passed, it finally came to me. He's one of the best poets of our generation. And it was because of all the prayers that were going around. And it took me back to 2016 when I convinced Puff to do the Bad Boy reunion tour. And I just remember him opening up in Brooklyn because he was going to be a surprise guest that night. And he did this prayer, and it was just so dynamic. And over this last week, we've just been seeing like his spiritual offerings, and it's bugging me out. I'm like, whoa, like he was so dialed in to another level of spiritual. And he'll go down as one of the, icon poets of our generation. And he'll be missed, man.
My son, that point there, a lot of folks may say, well, how can someone be so spiritual, but then face the addictions and the battles that he faced? But he constantly talked about it. He talked about his imperfections. Look, my wife is an ordained minister, listens to his gospel album, if you will. Now, some folks in the church would say, how dare you call it a gospel album? But it was an entire album where he was dealing with his relationship with God. You made a post on Instagram, and you talked about the love he showed you and the level of intensity before he took the stage?
Yeah, X was different, man. He was an angel. He was one of God's angels. He was one of those souls who was sent here to sacrifice. Like when you read the Bible, when you look the similarities that he had with so many of the prophets, you know, they all had their own struggles, you know, and they all had to deal with certain things. And X, his heart was so pure and he was so talented at the same time. He did not care about worldly things. He was a humanitarian. He loved people. He would sacrifice money and things at any time. That we would go. I remember, you know, I was on the tour with X, and he would go to the cities, and he would go to every project. He wanted to go to the projects. He didn't want to be with no security. He wanted him and me and whoever was with him to go to the projects and build with the people. And he would hug, and he would take pictures, and he would take money out of his pocket, and he would buy food, and they would bring him food, and he would eat the food. He loved everyone. So when you look at him, he was so authentic, and I think that's why people loved X. He shared his fears, he shared his faults, he shared the struggles that he dealt with, and that's why we were able to connect with him, because he was so pure. You know, you don't see people that pure. In hip-hop, everybody's trying to create a facade, and X never had a facade. What you saw when you saw X was exactly who he was, and that's why he will forever be one of the greatest, not just entertainers, but one of the greatest icons of our time.
Daunte, tell about that relationship. I saw videos this weekend of him joining an Albanian wedding. That was interesting, watching that video. Another video, folks rolling up on him, wanting photos, and how he popped into. I think there was one of the skateboard folks talked about when he dropped by and what it was like hanging out with them. But one thing that I found to be real interesting, and I got to find the thread. There was this woman who ran into him, who met him on an airplane, had no idea who he was. And the conversation it led to, then eventually she and her daughter invited to a concert later that night. It was an amazing thread, and it's so interesting. You begin to hear these stories, which is unlike, frankly, what we often hear from other celebrities.
Oh, no question. X was just a man of the people. He was the people's champ, the people's hero, the people's voice. And Roland, I believe we mentioned that particular story that you just mentioned in one of our pieces on Vibe.com. We mentioned that meeting with that woman on the plane. But I found one of the stories that were, and I have stories as well with X after doing, you know, cover stories with him and stuff. But there was one by Jesse Collins, the great executive producer of all the different live events for BET and the Oscars and stuff. And he just talked about how X was supposed to do, he was scheduled to do a BET performance, and he ends up detouring to go with some people at an airport. They just wanted to drive him around to go get some food and stuff, and he ends up inviting these people to the show for them to see him rehearse. And there's just a bunch of love, and they had car services and everything for him. And he Jesse Collins said that X jumped out this beat up Honda like it was a Bentley with all his best new friends. You know, like that was just the person that he was. He just wanted to be with the people. And with even like with the footage you're showing right now, he never had a hype man. It was always him out there on that stage. I mean, his DJ would be there or Swiss, but it was always him connecting with the people through his rhymes or through those prayers. They felt that ultimate connection. My son, how hard was it to when you see that, when you see his intensity, when you see his focus, but how hard also was it to have to watch him battle those demons constantly? And it seemed like he was in this forever. People would joke about, oh, DMX got arrested again. He's back in rehab. Oh, he filed for bankruptcy. But he was in this constant battle, and he openly talked about this battle with these demons. He put it in the music.
When you talk about X, and I say in biblical terms, and I'm going to keep saying it because I truly believe he's one of God's prophets and one of God's angels. And all of them had turmoil. All of them fought demons. All of those, and that's why we identified with him. X's life, was here for us to look at. To see someone who was so pure at heart, that had his own demons and his own struggles that he fought with, that he openly fought with you, and he got strength from us to fight with, right? So when we look at X's life, we can see the turmoil. There's going to be young kids that look and say, you know what, I realize what X went through. I understand the struggle and the sacrifice that he made. His life was a sacrifice for a lot of us to learn from. To see someone that talented and that beautiful at heart, one of the most purest at heart people you will ever meet in the world, to have to go through that struggle, it's a lesson for us to learn. And like when Jesus was sacrificed, he sacrificed for sins. And there's a lot of us, X's sacrifice is so that we don't have to go through it. These young kids should follow the life of X and see, when you look at how he got addicted to drugs, somebody that he loved, somebody that he trusted, slipped him something that he didn't even know about, and it had him suffering since he was 14 years old.
Yeah.
So when you study and you look at what he's been through and you understand who he is, hopefully it would be a lesson that we learn and we're able to be better.
This is Chuck. This is a video here, and Datewan and as Kenny. This is a video here when his body left the hospital on Friday, and just how folks were in the streets and how they were singing to his music. In many ways, this reminds me of when they took Biggie's hearse through Brooklyn for a final trip home before he was buried. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's sad, man, how much he talked about not being loved in his music or worthy of love, or and then to see how much he is loved in this actual video, man, it's kind of disturbing, man. I think that, our generation, we got it right when it came to, getting the industry back for what they did to the Cold Crush Brothers and all the people at that time. But when I look at like the mental health side of things and the actual well-being side of things, man, it's just intensified my passion to make sure our people are whole, because, money's not going to fix that empty hole. This man sold, millions, tens of millions of records, and I think it was 70 million records. And, he ended up probably with not as much as he should have had. The people that are, there to be, support systems and things of that nature, were far and few in between. And I just think that, we have to do the next generation, our generation now, because we're the gatekeepers, but the next generation, and looking out for each other, man. These record companies, we got to put systems in place to, make sure that people are getting the mental health that they need. Again, this man painted story after story for us, verbally, that talked about his frustration, his pain. I mean, I've fallen, I can't get up. I mean, he's had so many songs that talked about it. And we just got to do a better job as a community. It's cool to celebrate people when they're gone, but we got to make them feel that love while they're here. We have to pour into them while they're here. We got to keep them from things like this. And it's just amazing, one, to see it, the support, but then also sad at the same time, because this is something he didn't really feel he had, and now he's gone.
But you know what? The thing, that, Chuck, that when they had the verses last year with him and Snoop, the reaction from people was amazing. The folks, what they had to say. Well, one of the things that we've also seen over the last week, especially over the weekend, the videos folks have posted, not just as my son said of him praying, but also with his family. This video here, of course, you see it. Go ahead and play it, guys. So I think one of the mistakes that we often make is we forget that whether we're talking about DMX, whether we talk about Michael Jackson, whether we talk about Whitney Houston, whether we talk about, a number of folks who we lost, frankly, to overdoses, folks who've died, they had families. Outside of people loving them on stage, they had families that loved them and appreciated them, and they also love those children. Chuck, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, there's so many, there's a number of videos online looking at him with his daughter on the slingshot and she being petrified and him actually being, he was scared too, but he was, a father and a comforter of her in that moment. And these are things that we can relate to, looking at him and his son playing and him giving this big hug and kissing him on his forehead. One of my pictures I posted, it's me with him and one of his daughters, and that she's older now, you know what I mean? So, X has been vilified so badly in the media, and I don't want to harp on it, but we have to call it what it is. They paint a picture of us as black men, and then that translates into some sort of reality. It was wonderful seeing his children all together, smiling, and rooting together for their father, praying for their father, and it's heartbreaking to see them lose him at this time because a lot of them are young. His son is 4 years old. And a lot of them are in their formative years. But I think it's a silver lining that they, in fact, have all of this footage and all of this love, and they can draw from it. And they know that their father was loved. And, I lost my dad at a young age, and he was a teacher. So one of the beautiful things that I have is just a packet of letters from all the kids that he taught. And every time I post something, inevitably there's a nice thread of people who knew and loved him. So for DMX, it's 100-fold, 1,000-fold, a millionfold. And, I just love to read the posts about him being that good father and that good man and that angel that my son spoke about.
This is the video y'all were talking about of him and his daughter on that roller coaster. Watch this.
All right, it's gonna shoot us in the. Whoa. Whoa. Uh-oh. You ready, mama?
I'm so proud of you.
Yep.
You're gonna have so much fun.
It's gonna shoot us in the air, mama, okay? You
Make
ready?
sure you hold your head back a little.
Hold your head back. Hold your head back.
Perfect.
Okay.
There you go, now.
Ready? Okay, mama. It's too late. We're gonna do it. It's okay, I got you. It's okay, mama. Hold your head back. Hold your head back.
We're gonna do it.
Come on. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay, mama. It's okay. Daddy's here. Daddy's here. Daddy's here. Daddy's here. Daddy's here. Daddy's right here. It's okay, mama. Daddy's here. Daddy's here. Stop crying. Daddy's right here. Daddy's here. Daddy's here. Okay. Okay. See, it's okay. It's going down. It's going down. It's going down slowly. It's going down slowly. Daddy's here. Daddy's here. Daddy's here. Daddy right here. Daddy's right here. Daddy's right here. Daddy's right here. Daddy's right here. Okay, okay, I got you. I got you, mamas. I got you. I got you. Daddy's right here. That's okay. Okay, we going slow. We going slow down. It's okay. Stop crying. Daddy got you. See, it's over. You did it, Beans. You already did it. See, it's already over. Yay, you did it. Big girl. Big girl. See, you did it, mamas. It's already over. It's already over. It's already over. Okay? It's already over. It's already over. Daddy right here. Daddy right here. I told you I'm not gonna let you go. I'm not gonna let you go, bombers, okay? Daddy got you. Daddy gonna bring us all the way down. Okay?
How was it?
They gotta bring you. It's okay. You didn't cry, right? Say no, Beans. No. All right.
I know you did good. I'm proud
Yo,
of you.
yeah, she got more heart than you. Our daughter got more heart than you.
Hold up your feet. Hold
See?
up your feet.
Lift, huh?
Thank you.
Lift your feet. Lift your feet. Like this, Beans. We're not going over. We done.
You did a good job.
It was scary.
Good job.
It was scary.
You know what's crazy, Roland? His daughter's a G. She looked at everything while going up. X was like this, like I'm not looking around, down, side to side, nothing. But I want to tell you this, man, and it goes back to the whole, addiction thing. It's no way that man is leaving his children. The way he loved on his children, the way that he, I mean, it's just no way, man. But, that's a testament to people can't control these things, man. And it's just so amazing to see him with his children. And to be honest with you, I wish we'd have been showing all that the whole time, like during recovery. Like, I don't remember seeing none of this during the recovery or the jail time or any of that, man. So I'm just so happy that the prayers, and what he did with the spiritual connection over, even the last week alone, because he was in a coma and then passed. And also what you're seeing with his children. These are the things that we need to remember him by. And it's just, it's just amazing to see it. I mean, my heart is full for him and his family right now.
My son, it was watching the video and watching so many different videos, and him clutching our hand said, "Baby, Daddy got you. Daddy got you. Daddy's right here." And unfortunately for his children, as of Friday, Dad is not here.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but his children have a lot of fathers, man. A lot of us who deemed X as our big brother, some who deemed him as his father. I know his child's mother. She's a good friend of mine's. And I think as people in this industry and people who know X and loved X, we should make sure that his kids feel that love and that they never feel that they're alone, because he wouldn't have let them be alone. So I think we need to step up in that way and do whatever we can to support his family and show that love and let them know that they're not going to be alone.
The impact on music was, obviously tremendous, Daunte. When you think about when BET did the docuseries on Rough Riders, and folks got to understand, really how strong that brand was and the connection they had. I think same way a lot of people really didn't understand the impact Master P had to the docuseries as well. Talk about the music piece. Talk about really that particular legacy, how Rough Riders and DMX changed the game.
Yeah, they definitely changed the game, and X was the leader of changing the game. I think we all forget how impactful he was during that late 90s run going into the 2000s, to be able to put 2 albums out in under a year, in the same calendar year at that, to both go number 1, just adding to that, that whole 70 million sales, starting the foundation for that. But I think one of the other things that we also forget is the amount of people that he put on. He laid that ground for Rough Riders. The movement with the motorcycles, the loyalty through the theme of dogs, and just him wanting to grab any and everybody that came around him that he naturally felt love with. He embraced them, and these people are telling these stories from now all the way until forever. So if his kids ever need any kind of inspiration about their dad and who he was as a person, they have millions of people like Chuck and the rest of my guys on here saying they have millions of people that have stories about him and what he did to them. I'm talking even in some of the things that I've seen on social media from some people that I never even thought were such big DMX fans, they're talking about being in the foster care system and what the kind of light he's shown on their demons and to be able to help them come out through therapy and things of that nature. That's a different kind of artist. That's not an artist that tells you to go and get money. They're telling you to go and purge yourself to get help, to help heal yourself. And here's a prayer to send you on that way to recovery. So that's the kind of person that we're dealing with through the music. And it's not even just about the sales. It's about being able to, just touch people's hearts in that way.
Chuck, I interviewed Lionel Richie when B.B. King died, and he told me a story where B.B. King said, "Lionel, you cannot write the blues sitting in the back of a limousine." And when you think about the music of DMX, he literally he recorded what he lived, what he went through, those experiences. So he is able to take that pain. I remember the docuseries when they talked about when he was in prison, and the leaders of the Rough Riders said, "Wait until he gets out. He's going to take all of that, and it's going to be fierce."
Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, it's amazing. You know, I went back and I listened to one of my old interviews with DMX, and it was something. He was a hard interview sometimes because he carried so much of that that realness. He didn't care. You know, I was telling him, yeah, man, you went number one 3 times in a row. You're the first guy to do that. He's like, I did that? Like, really? And I'm like, yeah, you did that. You know what I mean? And so, I mean, that's just the kind of guy he was, man. You know, hanging out with him one day, he's, no security, just walking the streets, kids all over him, taking pictures of him taking pictures. And that's just the kind of guy that he was, man. That's why he's so beloved. And I'm trying to figure out what the comparison is in hip hop, but there really is none. You know, there really is no artist on that level that was that type of person that exists. And and I'm actually, I got to be honest, I'm going back and I'm revisiting some of those later albums, and I'm hearing gems, I'm hearing parables and things that I missed, as hip hop transitioned and moved on a little bit. So it's beautiful to know that we still have a wealth of DMX to explore, and some coming up too. He has a new album that he finished, and I look forward to taking it in with a new lens a little bit. And I don't know, man. It's this thing that we say, you don't know what you have until it's gone. And I had tried to reach X a couple of times, and I failed. And now I'm like, wow, that's not going to happen again. And I don't know. It just really hits a little different.
My son, take us backstage. Give people a sense of the transformation of someone who was fun-loving with the people, but then when it was time to hit that stage.
Oh, man, X. I remember it was 1999, and it was right before I went to prison, and X had me in his locker room with him, man. And I forgot what city we is. I think we was in Tacoma, Washington. And he had a show. He was backstage, and he was talking to everybody, and people came into his dressing room, and he was just talking, and then he just went into a corner by himself. And he just he just became somebody else. And then he walked out on that stage, and at that point, I had never seen nobody perform without a hype man. Like, everybody had a hype man, somebody doing something. That man went out to a sold-out arena with no hype man. And for over an hour, he gave his whole heart and soul. He gave every piece of him, to the point where when he came off the stage, he fell into his bodyguard's hands. They wrapped him up. He fell. Like, he fell out. He passed out, literally passed out. And they had to carry him backstage to where he sat down, and they poured water on him, and he started drinking water. Like, he had to revive himself. He gave every inch, and that arena was shaking. Like, literally, X was the best live performer I ever seen at that point. Listen to me, I went back to my hotel room, and I was just in awe. I didn't even talk the whole night. And I was talking to my manager, and I was like, yo, I've never seen nothing like that. Like that, if you want to be in this game, you have to aspire to do something like that. He transcended music. I'm telling you, like, when I say he was something so different, man, I never seen nobody that had that. And he performed with everybody. And that night, I think it was the Hard Knock Life tour. Everybody was on the stage, and they did their thing. But when X got on that stage, the whole stage just shook, and the whole world, it was people crying. He did his prayer. You could see people crying. It was just, listen to me. He was anointed so many different ways. He was skilled. he was loved, and he was pure.
Yeah, pure. I hear that word a lot with X. Pure. People are using that word.
Yeah,
that's real.
And he also made it cool to be vulnerable, man. I think we, as black men, we have issues with that. And I mean, he was so vulnerable, so transparent, and it shined through his music. And again, man, you know, just like my son was saying about his stage presence, you know, I remember being in the Barclays Center when he did his prayer for the Bad Boy tour. And when I tell you, bro, it was like, I remember the Hard Knock Life tour. Like, it was so transcendent. It was bigger than any preacher I'd ever heard. It was bigger than any artist I ever heard. And he just had that magnetism. But I think, you know, one word I want to use for black men is that he was vulnerable, and it was okay. And yeah, we're going to miss him, man.
Speaking of the prayer, here's one of the videos of DMX praying.
Father God, I am just learning how to pray. Bear with me. First, I thank you for the life of everyone that's here with me. Then I thank you for the love you give me. Why? I don't know. I don't deserve it, and it hurts inside. Many a nights I cried and called your name out loud, but didn't call you when I was doing good, too proud. And still you gave me love. I wasn't used to that. Most of the people that gave me love ended up taking it back. That's something new to me. So I'm asking you for time to adjust. Let me make it there. I will be one you can trust. What I stand for, I put my life on. I do. I guess what I'm asking is, show me how to stand for you. And I will rap for you, sing for you, reach for you, preach for you, teach for you. I will love you like you love me, unconditionally. And I will always be prepared for whatever the mission will be. Give the nutrition to me, and I'll properly digest it. And when I give it back, I will show you word well invested. And whenever I go, before I go, let me give. Thanks to you, Lord, for my birth, for every day that I've lived. You gave me a love most of my life I didn't know was there. I give you my life because you cared. Amen.
Amen.
You write your own prayers. You're very prolific.
Final thoughts from each one of you. I'll first start with you, Daunte.
You just have to give it to X for being able to take that vulnerability that Kenny was speaking about. And whenever he would cry, you never thought of him as weak. Whenever he would yell and bark, you never thought of him as someone too dangerous that you couldn't, you know, go up and just be embraced by. I'm just like blown away by the energy, similar to what Chuck was saying about listening to the music with a new lens. And I'm just looking forward to hearing what he has that's coming out, that he's going to leave us with, you know, that's a little bit more new and where he was just before he passed. So much love to DMX and his family.
Kenny Burns.
I just want to say that, you know, X, if I could tell him, you're appreciated. You're revered. You're probably one of the most respected and realest, you know, poets to ever grace a microphone. And I pray that from his offering, people learn that it's okay to tell your truth, no matter the truth. And I think that's what ultimately sets us all free. And I think he had enough time on this earth to tell his truth. And I believe, honestly, he's now free. So I want to send my love and condolences to his family, all of his children, and, you know, let him be the example.
Chuck?
Yeah, you know, a few years ago, Jazzy Jeff made a post on social media that said, "Die empty," you know, give the world everything that you have to offer, all of your gifts. And I'm really inspired by DMX. I'm really, truly inspired by his life, his legacy, you know, and looking at him as that person who's given so much of himself to the people. My company was started in the year '98 when he dropped those two albums, and I took those writings and what I did with him, and I put them online, and it really put a battery in the back of my company and allowed us to really flourish because he was that hot. And he was the hottest artist. And I didn't have access to all the hot artists at that time. But he gave us that time. And I think that this is why we're kind of saying, everybody has a DMX story, because that's how much he gave himself to us. So, I hope that others are inspired as well, man, to really share the world with their gifts unselfishly. And, we're not going to remember, we don't really care how many records he sold or how much money he had or any of that frivolous stuff. We truly do care about him as the person that he was, as the giver that he was, flaws and all. We're all flawed, and we all come shy of the glory. And so the only difference is that DMX let us know that he was that person that we kind of hide away, tucked in behind our suits or our jobs or titles or money or whatever you want to call it. So God bless him. Again, prayers to his family, his children in particular, and I pray for healing, that they are able to heal and thrive in this tragedy.
My son.
I think for me, I was blessed to call someone that I idolized. That how a lot of us are fans and we idolize people from afar. I was blessed to be able to call him my friend and my mentor, to be able to sit in rooms with him for hours and have him pour energy into me and have him teach me things about music and just about life. At a very young age, at 21 years old, I sat down with somebody that was pretty much a lyrical deity to me, and I watched him transcend music and transcend life, and I wanted to live my life in that manner. I wanted to be pure, and I modeled my life after the way that X lived his, just being pure, just wanting to be loved by the people that you came in with, loved by just the regular people, just wanting to be pure, so I feel what he's given to us, man, I hope we all have learned the lesson, man, about being selfless and being true to who we are. He never cared about materials. He didn't care about how many records he sold. He did what he did from the heart, man. So I was blessed to have someone like that I called my friend. And I seen him just probably a month ago, and he hugged me. And I hadn't seen him in a long time. And he hugged me so hard. And he was just happy. I was just happy to just see him, man. And put me in a car and drove me to my hotel. He was driving like 100 miles an hour because that's how X used to drive. But just being able to share that energy with him and share that presence with him one last time in his times is just something that is a blessing, and I'll never forget it.
Gentlemen, we certainly appreciate you sharing your thoughts and reflections with regards to the life and legacy of DMX. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
So it's Russell Simmons, of course, the co-founder of Def Jam, offered this video here where he said that it was DMX who literally saved Def Jam.
So we lost our brother. It's just starting to sink in. I feel a lot of emotions. I have a number of stories, but I'll tell one. We weren't doing very well at Def Jam, and I was in Malibu. I think I was more focused on other companies. But Kevin and Leo sent me a young executive by the name of Irv Gotti. And Irv came to me and he was bouncing. This is how it's gotta go, man. It's gotta be like this. And he was talking about the way the beat had to feel, right? Just kind of a typical thing an A&R director might do. And that's what Irv was doing. He was like, that's what we gotta do. And I remember getting on the Stairmaster and he started to talk. And I remember staying on the Stairmaster for an hour, which was almost double what I usually did 40 minutes or so. So for an hour I interviewed this young man, and of course Leo and Kevin already had their minds set on hiring him, so I approved him and he went to work. And I kept thinking about the way the music had to sound, the way he was animated and excited. And then not too long after that, I remember doing an interview on Hot 97, and I heard a record by the Locks. And there's a part in the record, and most of you hip-hop fans know it, he said, "Niggas talking shit, back the truck up." I was like, wow, what is this? And then he wasn't a member of the Locks, and I called the office and I said, "I just heard the most amazing vocalist." And Leo said, "Oh, he's signed to us." So I went to the office and I heard "Get At Me, Dog." And it was, to me, so special because Def Jam was built and based on loud, aggressive, abrasive music and vocals to match. That's what we were, loud, we were alternative. And that was the most alternative record I had heard in our office for a long time. It epitomized what we thought Def Jam was supposed to be. Other records were out, you know, they were more polished, they were more R&B. And we kind of rebelled. From the beginning, we talked about how Def Jam didn't do that. Of course, the world was changing, and we were falling behind because there was lots of melody in music. Hip-hop was melodic, but nothing like "Get At Me, Dog." And "Get At Me, Dog" was going against the grain and reminded me of what we loved at Def Jam. So I was so excited.
Folks, a moment ago, the family of DMX issued this statement. There were some reports out that saying that people threw out there that Beyonce and Jay-Z had purchased DMX's masters to give for $10 million given to his family. Well, the family has put out a statement saying all that stuff is not true. This is, quote, "There have been a few rumors following our loved one Earl Simmons' passing that we'd like to clear up. No one has bought Earl's masters. Additionally, we're not selling any merch or raising money for Earl's funeral. If anyone is requesting for money for his funeral, please be aware the person is a scammer. We will keep the public posted on funeral memorial service arrangements. Earl DMX Simmons' family." And so, again, they announced there would be a memorial service later for DMX, and we'll certainly have those details for you when it is available. Folks, again, so many people are just remarking about DMX and about his passing. And if you go on social media, if you go other platforms, I mean, you can see all of these different postings. Folks talking about what he meant and things along those lines. And we mentioned that all the different videos. This is a video that was shot about a month ago of him with a gospel singer, Leandria Johnson, and others there in Atlanta, where they were singing gospel music. Guys, y'all have it in the control room. Please play it. Well, they were singing gospel music. They were praying. This has been shared all over social media. That's not the video right there, please. Where they were just talking about, again, they were just having a moment where he was, they were in the moment and they were just singing and dancing and praying. And you saw the intensity. You saw the intensity of DMX and just really just into it. I'm gonna try to find the video for you folks because it was really amazing to watch it because you saw really what kind of person he was and how he understood the power of faith. He understood the power of religion, and it's really hard for people to say, well, I mean, how can you go through drug addiction and then you be this person of faith? But that is the case. I was reading a story today of Vance Johnson, former NFL player, talking about being a Christian and talking about just the hell he went through with his drug addiction and his battles, and he knew that he needed to be saved, and how he could not just how he fought and then went to a coma for 28 days. And then coming out of that, he realized that was another life for him. And so I think it's important for us not to be so fixated on a person's demons and their failings and not realize that we all have our failings. If we really want to be honest, a lot of us aren't public like DMX. Folks aren't looking at us. They aren't seeing us and seeing our faults and frailties. If something happens to a lot of you out there, if you get arrested, guess what? They aren't showing your arrest. They aren't putting you on TMZ. And so I think we just have to be very understanding of what folks are dealing with in these moments of crisis. And so this is one of those videos right here. Check it out. All right, so not sure why. Let's see here. Let's see here if I can get you guys to see it. I saw this on Pastor Jamal Bryant's page, so not sure why it isn't. There we go. You should see it now. All right, should be showing up soon because I'm seeing the check mark here. So, folks, if you actually go to Jamal, give me just 1 second. I'm gonna try it on a second iPad. Hopefully, I can actually, you can see it on this pad here. Let's see here. All right, here's one of those videos. Here's the last video.
No weapon formed against you.
Come on.
Yeah. Everybody that's here on your side, it won't work. No weapon.
Yes, sir.
Formed against you.
Okay, I hear you.
It won't prosper.
Okay.
It won't prosper.
Okay.
It won't
Yes,
prosper.
sir. Okay.
It won't prosper.
Say it again.
No weapon formed against me. It will come.
It don't matter.
DMX, dead at the age of 50. Folks, we'll see you tomorrow right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered.